цьому плануванні вона мене помічник.
Greetings from UCMC. Now we have community spokesman. This is joint project of UCMC and DOBRE. And here we share the ideas of decentralization reform. One of the key tasks of decentralization is the creation of efficient self-governance that will be able to provide safe and comfortable living in the territories of settlements and towns. In order to do this, the community started to get united voluntarily, and the more community has, the more it may provide for people. So what it can provide in practice, and whether amalgamated communities are ready to reject decentralization if someone wants to consider the scenario. And we would like to ask about it the heads of the communities. And today we have head of Kompaniivsk community that in Oleksandr Maslyukov. Good afternoon, Oleksandr. So we are going to start. At the beginning of the reform in 2014, people were afraid of decentralization, of unification of communities, and I believe that you had such fears in your community, but you still got united. And what helped you to understand that it is important to get united? Starting 2014, some people have some concerns about this, and this unification. You remember there were collective farms, and people were afraid of changes, that some parts will get united and others will be rejected. And I was ready to do it in 2015 during the first wave, but I was not supported by my colleagues then. They have been working for a long time, and they said, you do not have experience. And we didn't get united in 2015, and I convinced the deputies. We studied legislation, and there were proposals to get united, but these proposals were rejected. And we looked at the experience of our colleagues that got united first. The Brunetsk community got united first in our region, and we saw the experience, and we saw that those who get united, they received more funds, responsibilities, and the people trusted the heads of those communities. That's why, once again, I would like to say that I started the work not with the heads, but with the people. And the people, they are the heart of the community, and they understand what needs they have for them. Their attitude is important. So these services help to these people to get access to kindergartens, to the services centers, and we should implement this all. And one of the first communities that agreed is Kompaniivsk Council. We had several meetings, and during the second meeting, we invited the village head, and he understood that the residents want to get united. And in October we had elections. We underwent all the stages, and we got positive opinion from the commission, and we had elections. So you were convinced by the example of other communities, and you changed approach. You came to people, and what benefits do communities get, these unified communities, if we compare them with those communities that didn't get united? So this is financial resources. This financial resource increases, but responsibility also increases. And you become responsible for many things. Education, we didn't have it before. We had only kindergartens, but then we started to be responsible for healthcare, for education, and we are responsible for security, fire security. There are many benefits, and the main is the attraction of the funds. Getting grants, participation in contests, And this is all on the initiative of our residents. And we study a lot due to DOBRE program. We are in the third wave. And also we undergo training. We involve people. And we help people to implement what they want. They get funds from these grants and they implement the projects and they are motivated by it. And previously we didn't have a lot of such people, that now we have many of them. And we discussed the projects. People argue and they hold talks a lot. There are many proposals. I believe we have many benefits, but also there are some drawbacks, of course. But the reform is new, and you should listen to those heads who worked for a long time. The state should hear us, listen to us. Ukraine is a big country. It is versatile. And the laws that are adopted, they are adopted for all Ukraine. But there should be differential approach to land, to environment, to ecology. So in our region, we do not have collections from tourism. We are an agrarian region, and the land is our main profit. And if we are speaking about taxes, we believe that we should do it ourselves. We should set them. All our lands that we had, first there was a state cadastre and the administration owned the land and they leased it for 45 years. Now they shift this responsibility to us, and maybe some agreement should be changed and the payment for land lease should be increased. We see that they pay 3%, for example, but time changes. And people, they live in our territory, they really care and they understand that the budget should be filled with money. And this money goes from land tax mainly. So I believe that the heads of the amalgamated community should be more efficient and they should help to provide changes to legislation. In this case, the situation may be changed. So those heads, they should initiate this. I see many interesting pictures on screen. I see roads and playing grounds, and I see that there are many benefits, and I would like to hear how these benefits and how expectations of decentralization are implemented. I understand that your community is new. It was created in 2017, and it started its work in 2018. So 1.5 years passed, not a lot of time really, but what expectations were implemented? I believe that the main is that people trust us. Those from other village council, they really trusted us and joined us. They see the benefits of the reform in practice, and they expressed their wish, and they joined us in 2018. Pershatravinska Council, they initiated the meeting. They invited us to come, and they saw that we work on comparative basis, we trust each other, and all the funds that are provided by the state for the development of infrastructure and social issues, we really use these funds appropriately. Before, they didn't have their own budgets, they only provided for the salary, and people trusted us, and I believe that this is the biggest result. And we build roads, and maybe this year not so much, but maybe this is a transitional year because there are parliamentary and presidential elections. But before we had the capital repairs of roads, we put lighting of roads, and we opened sports facilities, football field for mini football. We plan to open basketball ground, and the situation improves. It becomes better. So you've said it correctly. It is important for communities in this context when they say that decentralization kills villages, as we may see from your report, it brings villages to life. And I know your biography, and I know that you are engineer, aircraft engineer. So if we consider a community, an amalgamated community, as a big airplane, how do you see it? How it may travel without any interruptions? Yes, we may compare an airplane with the community. According to our plan, we want to get united in one big, powerful community. What does it mean? What does it need? So the airplane needs a very good runway, and in our community, we should have clear legislative basis in order to have this good runway, and in this way we'll be able to take off in a good way. And the main initiators of changes are people. Before 2014, and I undertook responsibility. I traveled, I saw what should be changed, and I addressed the deputies, and they supported me, and we implemented the ideas. Now the situation is different, and we get ideas from people. We want people to show us the way, and we may help them to find money, to find investors, and to help them change their life, because they live in these territories. And this is a big responsibility to head this community. And when people trust, when they show the way, it is easier to go along this way. One of the main elements of the runway you've mentioned, maybe it should be a strategic view for the development of the community. And have you created this document? So we have strategic plan. This is the main document that should be in the community. You clearly outline the main ways along which we are going to travel. So we are working on the strategic plan. We have a working group of 25 people, representatives from each community that got united. And I believe that it will be in the end of July, and we are helped by Polish experts through DOBRE program. Each month they come to us, and each month we go to one of the territories and settlement. And it is interesting to hold these meetings, and we travel around the settlements, and we choose what we saw, what is the most attractive, and we pay attention also to negative things, and we collect it all, and we put it in our project. And now, in July, we are going to adopt the strategic plan until 2027. And also, Katerina Daun joins us by Skype. This is the deputy of Kompaniivsk Council, and she is a member of the working group, and they work on the strategy. So do you hear us?
We do not hear you. Good afternoon, I hear you. Good afternoon, Miss Katerina. We are talking now about the development of the development strategy of Kompaniivsk community. Tell us, please, about this and how you survey public opinion. Especially we survey public opinion. We hear to the feedback because there are many shortcomings from the past times, and we think with new strategy development, we will bring to people the message that decentralization is very good. We have already worked with DOBRE program, and there were youth projects where youth supported us in the discussion and voted for the youth project, and we are developing at this stage, and we communicate to every settlement that they can take part thanks to decentralization, and this is a wide range. Yes, we hear you. This is a wide range of decentralization where it is very good that we can work with our partners and they make us orienting to the path of truth. You are a deputy. What people are saying you, what are their priorities, what they propose? In some communities maybe to make roads or to create jobs. In other communities all these are priorities. There are many opinions. Some people want jobs, but first we should start with ourselves. The more we invest in our communities, the higher results we shall obtain. We communicate to people that we should start with ourselves, then the community would change when we would change. Thank you, Ms. Katerina. Please stay in contact with us. We shall communicate later. I would like to add a few words. Ms. Katerina is an example when we were at exchange program in the USA, and people have no culture department in the USA. People should want culture themselves. Ms. Katerina is such an activist. She generates so many ideas that we have no time to implement all her ideas. She is a kind of US-minded person. Maybe she was destined to bring culture into the general public, where people even cannot notice this choices availability. Maybe this US community works with you. This is not by chance, and you are very lucky to have such community members, such activists. Talking about the strategy, I would like to talk into more details. It is intended to Mr. Groisman, the government leader, he insists on economic development, that it connects with the communities. To this end, communities should base on some their competitive advantages. Have you already had time to inventory, to stock take what could be your advantages on which you can build the new history, the new story of your community? Yes, we have already approved the program of development, but it is quite complicated for us. Our conditions are not easy as compared to other communities. I understand that the place where we live, it chooses us, not us choose the place. What advantages we can select? Maybe agricultural cooperatives. We visited Poland several times. I like very much their fruit and vegetable cooperatives, and it is possible to create solar power plants. There are many territories where we cannot grow agricultural crops. There we can build solar power plants. So when we wanted to assigned the land plot for solar power plants, the owner have changed 3 times, so we cannot find the opportunity. And what? Whether community cannot influence? Yes, the community cannot influence. So the investors change, but we want the solar power plant, not we want jobs and not only revenues from land tax. I think that we are faster than the legislation. The legislation is behind our development. We are like a locomotive, like a flagship. We are implementing our ideas which will generate faster than the legislative framework change. So I think now you have the best chance. Parliamentary election to come soon, and you ask candidates, you propose to them, ask them how they see development of communities, including these problems which you face, these challenges, voice out to these candidates to the parliament. Ms. Katerina said that everything depends on people's willingness to transform. How do you engage people to decision making and implementation of the made decisions? Sometimes people are very passive and uninterested in what local authorities are doing. Yes, we have such people in our community who are passive, but they are very interested then to discuss this decision. Why you did not ask us? But we always tell when we discuss our draft decisions, and we invite them for public hearing so that they voice out their proposals and opinions. And if your opinion is useful, we will use it, of course, but there are some people who are passive. I do not know why. There are some life strategies that better I would not interfere, but then later I will ask them why you did so. Last time when we decided on our taxes and public hearings were attended by 2 persons only out of all landowners and entrepreneurs. Next year they will live with these taxes, maybe to increase taxes or decrease taxes, but we wanted to know about their challenges, but nobody came, although they were invited. And when the decision will be voiced out, when it would be made public, they will then discuss it. But if the mountain not goes to Magomed, then Magomed comes to the mountain. Well, Ms. Katerina, in the community, the power means not only the head, but also executive committee and deputies, and you represent deputies corps. How do you manage to find common language and to have enough votes, to have majority of votes so that the decisions are passed? Yes, first we have very intensive discussions. Do you have some meetings like in our parliament? No, we do not have, but sometimes we need to drink water to extinguish our emotions, but it is quite complicated process. Everyone has his or her own interests, and we should give the chance to people to adopt decisions to the benefit of citizens, but not for someone's interests, individual interests. I wanted to ask you, Here we often heard the word complicated. Yes, there's never going easy if we talk about the self-government reform, but when it is complicated, can you compare? You are in self-government since the year of 2000, and when was it complicated? All the time it was quite hard, but now it is more interesting. We have now more opportunities. Previously we were instructed what to do, and nowadays we have choice, we have options, and we decide. Our time is when we can take. Maybe it is a little bit harder because we do not have strategy, we do not have unanimous decision about the direction where we go, but we can engage more and more funds. So with time it becomes more and more interesting. So the villages started to live more interesting lives, and there is choice and there are opportunities how to implement your ideas. Scenarios can be different. Maybe someone would want to curtail, to stop decentralization because there are many opponents to decentralization. Are you ready to stop decentralization? I cannot imagine this, that next time we will wake up and we will not have our territorial community and that the reform is curtailed. We should stop generating even the idea of this, because our people, for them it is better when there is legislation. You have time till morning. When you have 5 years to think whether I want or I do not want, this bring to procrastination, and those passive people, they become even more passive, and it is hard for us to influence on them. There are prospective plans which I approved at the regional level from the January 1st to start working on new prospective plans. I have nothing against regional and district administration, but sometimes they are the odd link. These 3 powers in our territory, like in any territory, is not good. And there are many good owners on lands, but people should have choice. But when there are 2 powers, everyone has its interest, it is hard to create the framework. When we can unite, amalgamate into one community, it would be easier to develop the community. People should feel this, and we should forget these ambitions that he is a head of regional administration or district administration and I am community head. We should stop these practices. We should work in decentralization reform for people so that they think us only. We have opponents and in any territory opponents are present. So I should say that decentralization, it is good, and we should finalize it, make it completed. So in the context of future parliamentary election and returning to the runway, that the legislation is the runway for any community, now put your assignment to the Verkhovna Rada, to the parliament. First, we want the election to finish soon because there's distract attention from our work, day-to-day activities. First is education education department. This is new for us, and when we got the Department of Education into our management, we do not have funds. Even in those months where all teachers, after the end of education process in June, in the third quarter, we got taxes revenues. We should look through the budget code for our benefit. It should be not painful to pay vacations, benefits to the teachers, but we took a loan to pay them their salaries and vacation benefits. And mandatory, there should be a tax per hectare of land, because all those activities such as were divided permanent land use, temporary land use, this create mess. In the cities, it doesn't matter how much and when is paid, land tax is paid. For us it matters. We should have the right to give land to ATO members. We feel respect to these people who are our defenders, but when we allocate lands, some people, they just sell it, and we do not get money in our budgets, and these ATO members, they also do not get their revenues from land. I think that if we have more powers, we will benefit from this. And what about the amendments to Constitution? Do we need them? Yes, we needed them yesterday, but now they are important for us, but not so much. We are far from Kiev, from the capital, and we are quite far from all these collisions and so on and so forth. We have other life in the villages. We live our simple lives. Those civil servants, the leaders of the country, if they visit our village and see how people live in village in winter, they would learn much new. So I think the opinions would change of how to look on the village communities. We are not in focus of attention, and I hope that in this new convocation of Parliament our proposals will be heard, which we have been sending to them via the association. Some of our proposals are accepted and some of them are not. But the Parliament should listen to the grassroots, because everything starts with the people on land. But the law on administrative reform is important. So thank you, Ms. Katerina. Our discussion is over. Our greetings to Kompaniivsk village community. I hope that in 5 or 10 years we will see the new Kompaniivsk, which is well developed and prosper. We talked to Oleksandr Maslyukov from Kompaniivsk community. Thank you.